Hello, welcome to Ash Toon Talk, and in today's video we're going to go over what has been a very difficult summer in the transfer market for Newcastle United, and namely that elephant in the room, Alexander Isak. Where do we start? So, first place I want to start with is thank you very much for watching. It's a new channel. Just getting the ground running. Looking forward to doing a couple of these a week, talking everything to do with the Toon, anything to do with upcoming games, predictions, and obviously anything to do with the transfer sagas that are going on. We'll go over all those in as much detail as we can, just to cover the bases and give my opinion on what's going on at the moment with our beloved club, and hopefully make sense of some of things as well. Obviously, if you like what you see, give us a like and a subscribe, and hit me in the comments as you go. And if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, I'll try to reply to all the comments. I'll always do that. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. So, today, the news has come out. Say news. We've had a report today that apparently Alexander Isak has stated that he will never play for Newcastle again. I mean, how does that make you feel as a Newcastle fan? Pretty angry, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the source has come from a very trusted journalist. The problem is, it's not directly from Alexander Isak's lips, and I'm not defending him, the player, at all. I'm not defending him. What I am saying is, sometimes it's all hearsay. But that being said, I just want to go over exactly what this farce around this player has been from, well, I'm going to go as far back as the Carabao Cup, so bear with me. So, we win the Carabao Cup. The amazing feeling, I think we've nearly forgot that now, but that amazing feeling of winning a trophy for the first time in 70 years was just unreal. We felt on cloud nine. We felt like the sky's the limit with Newcastle. You know, we're going places. We're still in the hunt for the Champions League, and then we go and qualify for the Champions League as well. We had an amazing season last season, and unfortunately, with everything that's happening, we seem to not forget it, but it's getting overshadowed. And we feel like, I certainly feel like, that this summer should have been one for pure progression and just, you know, go to that next level. But there's been various factors that have hindered us, and the main one is what has happened with this one player of ours who, let's be honest, from when we won the cup, has down tools. That's what it felt like. You know, you could see it in his body language from there onwards. So, not necessarily that his head was turned. You know, I've heard certain things myself that suggested that he was going to engineer a move away from the club anyway at the end of the season. But again, hearsay. Then we get to June and the opening of the transfer market. At that point, we hadn't heard that Alexander Isak was looking to leave. We didn't, you know, as far as we're concerned, he worked for sale at that point. Then we was in for a couple of players. We was in for Gel Pedro. That didn't happen. Then we was in for Delap. That didn't happen. Then we got this supposed inquiry from Liverpool. So how that came about, out of the blue, was out of the blue. Those are questions that I cannot answer directly. Did that come from the player or the agent to suggest that he was interested in going to Liverpool? At that point, I believe that Newcastle as a club said, no, he's not for sale. However, there was reports coming out that Isaac's head has been turned. He's been turned here, he's been turned there. He was unsettled. Then they went to the Austrian training camp. He turned up for 5 minutes saying that he had a hamstring injury. He's then gone back home, back to the UK. From there, then we get the report that apparently that he wants to explore his options. So that suggested to everybody concerned in the media, who were going to jump on that very quickly, that he wanted to leave. So, but then we look at his actions from there. So he's not then gone to the Asia Tour. That Asia Tour was essential that he went on that. Him not going on that was a massive statement from then on. That he was not going to do anything to promote the club and put our name out there. Our arguably star player is not on our pre-season tour of Asia. Injured or not, he should have gone. Whoever the club should have forced him to go, that remains up to debate. Whether or not they were dealing with that internally, we don't know. We're not privy to that information, and we've never been actually told what's been happening around the situation with Alexander Isak. The club have sort of dried up in their responses to us, which, from my point of view, they were very open to begin with. Obviously, maybe that was the Amanda Staveley, way of doing things, and the media reports and the reports coming from the club and talking to us as fans, the communication was on point. But from the last 6 months to the last year, it's been pretty non-existent. So that does suggest that our leadership at the club is a bit of an upheaval at the moment. But we'll bench that for the moment. Just concentrate on what's happening with Alexander Isak. Then Newcastle go on tour to Asia. He's nursing a hamstring injury, supposedly. Then from there, we learn that he goes off to Spain, his old club, to train there on his own. I mean, that alone is that is rubbing salt in the wounds as far as I'm concerned. I mean, why would you go and train at your former club, and not jet out to meet your teammates and obviously hook up with the rest of the squad? That is intent there straight away. Then we get the bid from Liverpool at the same time. Low ball. Any Liverpool fan watching, low ball. I mean, okay, we've got a certain valuation on the player. 150 million supposedly. No one's actually come out and said that. But if you're sort of aware that it's around about the 150 million pound mark, why would you come out with a 110 million offer? And not expect it to be rejected, maybe testing the water, whatever. But that is a low ball offer for someone at the moment who's considered one of the best strikers in the Premiership and in Europe and possibly the world. Not being funny, you pony up the money or make it something that we have to consider at least. I.e., there's been a lot of talk for 110 million. Maybe they should have offered us Harvey Elliott as coming our way as making up the price difference. That could have been something that the club could have looked at. However, it was rejected. So there we go. So from that rejection, apparently Liverpool have come out, or someone in Liverpool's come out, or we've heard Liverpool stating that they will not bid again for Isaac because Newcastle aren't ready to play ball. That's what we heard. Liverpool now are not going to bid again. And they haven't bid since. And that was well over a week ago now. I think it was 2 weeks ago. From there, we've had Eddie Howe coming out and rightly stating, and this is why I think we all love him, he's in our corner. Our manager has come out and said, we are Newcastle United. You cannot treat the club, nobody's bigger than the club, like you have. If he is going to be integrated, then he's got to earn the right to train. He's going to find it hard to just walk back in and say, it's like any workplace, I suppose, in many ways. You can't just come back into that and just expect to be welcomed with open arms when you've not abandoned your teammates. That's the wrong word to use. But what he has done is he's alienated himself from the rest of the team. From there, we've still not had any further bids from Liverpool. We learned that Newcastle have put a bid in for Sesko. Now, the way that we read it, or I certainly read it, is that Sesko was sort of earmarked as a replacement for Alexander Isak if he was going to go the other way. That obviously didn't happen. Does that suggest that the club have said to Liverpool, potentially, look, we can revisit this. However, we do need someone in the door because we're not being left without our recognised striker going into a Champions League season. We have Wissa in the background, obviously. He's a Callum Wilson replacement. He's not a replacement for Isak whatsoever. From there, he's back at the club, training on his own. Apparently, he's met with Eddie Howe at that point. What was talked about, we don't know. I don't know if personally, I can't remember seeing if he's been back to training or if he's trained regular. But obviously, he was seen going back into the Newcastle training ground. It has pretty much dried up to the point where we're getting a week away from the start of the Premier League, and obviously the transfer deadline is rapidly approaching. 1st of September is getting nearer now. We're only just over 2 weeks away, so we're suggesting that we're not going to sell him. That's what's been suggested. However, then there's comments come out today about him not wanting to play for Newcastle again, or he will if he is forced to stay. Oh, I wish I was forced to stay on 120 grand a week. Boo fucking who. And then he would never play for again. Never play. He's never going to play for Newcastle again. If he has said that is the end of the story, he should go, because as far as I'm concerned, he'll never be trusted again. A lot of this is about trust more than anything. So a lot of these players, and I'm sure he's included in this, or he's thought about this at least, is about their own legacy and what that means. So his actions, or lack of action, or lack of comment, or lack of reaffirming comments, state to us as fans that he doesn't care about his legacy with the club, or the way he's portrayed to those fans that, let's face it, up to this happening, have adored Isak. Isak was our star striker as far as we were concerned, banging the goals in from anywhere, and he was adored. But he's destroyed that. That's what we're faced with. He has destroyed his reputation. Most Newcastle fans, if not all. One thing that really bugs me is that there's a lot of people, like ex-pros, or there's a few people out there in the media that are saying, so if Isaac does stay, if he starts banging the goals in, all will be forgotten. No, that will not happen. As far as I'm concerned, he will not be trusted again. Maybe down the line, say the end of next year, if he's still with us and he signs another contract, you know what, I'm going to stay with Newcastle, signs another contract with us for another 5 years, and this is not revisited in this way again, he can start to earn back that trust. So that's that thing with trust. It has to be earned. Once you break trust, it's very hard to earn it again, and it's very much like a relationship in some ways. He's done the dirty on Newcastle, and we're going to find it very, very hard to trust that player again. But the same breath, if he does start banging the goals for Newcastle this season and he does stay, we're still going to cheer them, aren't we? It's our club at the end of the day. Regardless of who the player is, what we won't do is have that idolisation for him again. He's going to find it very hard. Us Newcastle fans are most welcoming fans they are. There's a lot of fans out there that are welcoming, but we take him in as a family member as such, because everyone's going to think twice about his intentions. Maybe he knows that, and maybe that's why he has essentially spat his dummy out and said that he's never going to play for the Toon again. Do you know what? It's all hearsay, not the band. It's all hearsay, as in he said, she said, he said, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. No, nobody knows for sure, and I guarantee you, if he does end up staying at Newcastle, he will be playing for us again. We are not going to have someone who's worth that kind of money, who can actually get us potentially 20-odd goals a season, sat in the reserves, and he is not going to want to do that either, because the World Cup is coming up. And with the World Cup coming up, do you really think he's going to sit on the bench? No. He's not going to sit in the reserves because it will damage any chance he's got of playing for Sweden in the World Cup. Simple as that. So, in all, to summarise what I think of the whole Isak issue, if he stays, we've lost all trust in him. I've lost all trust in him. What I think the club should do, I think they should play hardball, total hardball with him now. Because the way he's treated us, I mean, it's not tit for tat. He's got to realise that he's not bigger than Newcastle United. No, he's our player. Regardless of how big Liverpool are as a club, he is our player. And for him to behave the way he is, not that he needs to be taught a lesson, but we need to reaffirm that we are a club on the rise. This is where we're aiming to be. That we don't have a ceiling. That is what we've been sold by our chairman, by obviously the PIF. They have told us that we do not have a ceiling. So for us to maintain that persona, we have to treat these kind of behaviours in an appropriate way. And the only appropriate way of doing that is saying, look, as far as we're concerned, we're not getting the money we want. We want 150 million. That's tough. If we don't get that for you, you're not going anywhere, son. You are staying put because that's what we want. That's what we're going to get. You're contracted to us and you're staying. Oh, you're not going to play for us again? Well, that's entirely up to you, pal. Either you pony up or should I say, you put in a transfer request and then you revoke all your rights in your contract or all your bonuses, which he hasn't done, by the way. Or you just shut up, get on with it, give us another year and see where that leads us. Potentially see where we are 6 months down the line, because obviously we've got the January transfer window. We don't know where we'll be at that point, whether or not he would have played for us at that point. He's already gone, whatever. But if he's still with us and he's playing for us and he's knocking the goals in, then we can reassess that at that point, and maybe, hopefully by that point, we've got someone in as a director of football or somebody. We have got someone in as a director of football, haven't we? Do you know what? Off the top of my head, without looking and going away, I can't remember if we've actually now got a director of football anymore. Obviously, in the comments, let me know. Should have done my research. But the other point is, if he stays, he's going to play. And if he thinks for a second he's going to sit in the reserves and he's going to achieve anything, he's sadly mistaken, because every player, every professional footballer wants to play. Put those toys back in the pram and stop being a classic prima donna, because it doesn't wash for us fans. That being said, if we get the 150 million, he goes to Liverpool. We get a lot of money for him. Happy days. And then it's their problem, isn't it? We've just sold potentially one of the best footballers, but we've got the money we wanted. We've got the money that we wanted. But I will stress, that leaves us no time to get a replacement in for him at all. Because one, he's not replaceable by anybody who's in the market at the moment. And two, we don't seem to be that far along with any potential transfers anyway, although they can happen quickly if push comes to shove. But we have dragged our feet all summer. That is my summary of what I think is going on with Isak, what should happen with Isak at the moment. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Do you think I'm hitting some whole truths of some of the comments? Am I missing something? Let me know in the comments. I'm happy, to engage with anybody, positive or negative. End of the day, we're all Newcastle and we're all here for the club that we love. Now let's talk about our transfer business. So, it's fair to say, transfer market hasn't gone very well for Newcastle in the summer. I think it's all linked. I think, to be honest with you, the Isak problem is actually distracted away from what could have potentially been a good, straightforward summer in the transfer market. However, we do seem to have upset some of the legacy clubs by going for will improve us. And it's a very small pool of players. What we've got to remember is we've got a very good squad. We have got a very good squad. I mean, we're not punched above where we should be. I think the players we've got, like Tonali and Bruno, Joe Linton, a defence. I mean, Shah's obviously playing out his skin, and so is Dan Burn, but they're really good defenders in their own right. Livramento, Lewis Hall, Jacob Murphy last season, he's probably coming to his own, and hoping that he carries on this season. Anthony Gordon, obviously Isak. We've got a really good squad. So we're going for a very small group of players that will improve us. And unfortunately, every single one we've gone for, and the list reads as so: Pedro, Mbumo, Cunha, Delap, Ekitike, Sesko. All those players rejected Newcastle or gone elsewhere. What do you say to that? Those teams that they've gone to, every single one of those players have all gone to teams that you would class as a legacy team. I personally can't understand why anyone would want to go to Manchester United at this point in time, because yes, they're on the rebuild, but they're miles off. Absolutely miles off. One of the world's biggest clubs. Can't deny that. Never will deny that. And I'm sure I'll be ridiculed if I even tried to deny that. However, the likes of Mbumo and Sesko especially, why they would choose Manchester United over Newcastle is beyond me, to be perfectly honest. But they have, and that's the way it's gone. What's that taught us? That has taught us that we can be bullied a little bit. And I think we can only be bullied because we have got more PSR restrictions than those clubs. Those clubs turn around and nearly double of what ours are. So they can bully in the transfer market. They can bully anyone. They can bully anyone in the Premier League. The likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Manchester United, Chelsea, because of I think it's obviously Tottenham. Their turnaround is such that they never feature in the PSR rules because they never get to the thresholds because of how much of their turnover is. Although Chelsea have fudged the books for ages. There we go. So where does that leave us? So we have signed. So I think Anthony Elanga is a really good player. Really good player. He was absolutely magnificent for Nottingham Forest last season. And I think he was a very good addition to the squad. On that right side, competition for Jacob Murphy. They'll keep him on his toes. And what he offers us in terms of assists and even goals, he's up there with definitely someone who's improved us. However, he needs a striker to go alongside him. That brings me to the subject of who we've actually gone for, and we know of someone who wants to actually join us, Wissa. Well, Wissa, obviously Callum Wilson's replacement. That's let's face it, that's who we are trying to sign him for as a replacement for Callum Wilson. That is supposed to be in sort of like the final stages now, whereas like Bournemouth are looking to sell a player to Brentford. So once Brentford buy that player, then they will be more inclined to set an offer from Newcastle for Wissa and let him go. Till that happens, then we're sort of in this little limbo stage where, we've got the first game of the season against Aston Villa and we've not got a striker yet. But it could move very quickly if that other side of it, the Bournemouth-Brentford side, gets tied up and done. So we'll see on that. And I think he will be a good addition to the squad. 19 goals in open play is nothing to be sniffed at in the Premier League. There's not many players that have hit 19 goals in the Premier League in one season. There's very few, and they're few and far between. I mean, I believe as well, ironically, Liverpool were going to go in for Wissa themselves, and he's told to go whistle. So Wissa told Liverpool to go whistle. So there we go. He wants Newcastle, and that's what we want players who actually want to come to us. Hopefully that will happen. And then the other solid transfer that we've got, which is ongoing and I was hoping to hear news today, but that another Isak thing's popped up that's overshadowed everything, is Malik Chow, defender. Been saying for a while myself, we need to start getting replacement defenders in, because unfortunately Shah and Dan Burn are not going to last forever. There's only so long a defender can play in the Premier League without the legs, and the legs are going to start to go because of their age. Anticipation is great, and they've both got defensive nous in spades. They're very aware defenders and they're very good defenders. But if they've not got the legs anymore, and that's what will happen, we're going to get found out quite quickly in the centre of defence. So to bring someone in, Malik Chow, 6'4", 6'5", I think, or something like that. He's German international. He looks like he could slot right in. I think he's right-sided defender, so he can play on the right and he can play in the middle. So as a central defender, so he's sort of like a replacement for Shah. Obviously, we've still got Botman there, and hopefully he can stay injury free, and because he's proven to be a bit injury prone at the moment, which is not ideal. Then the only other person we really of note have signed, obviously we've got some youngsters that we signed. I will go over them just to try and keep this video down to 30 minutes. Is Aaron Ramsdale. I like that appointment. I think Aaron Ramsdale will do a really solid job for us. He's very good competition for Nick Pope. He'll keep Nick Pope on his toes. And I wouldn't be surprised if they chop and change the goalkeeper this season quite frequently, because he's a good goalkeeper. Okay, he didn't do well with Southampton, but that's with Southampton last season. But I like the fact that we've got the number one choice for England, but two English international players in net for both playing for Newcastle. I really like that. And that is where we are with the transfers. I mean, there's other people who've been linked. I mean, we've been linked to everybody, haven't we? But I think Nicholas Jackson we're linked with at the moment. I personally wouldn't. If Nicholas Jackson is a good idea or not, all I will say is, if we do get someone like Nicholas Jackson, he's somebody that Eddie could take under his wing. I mean, we've got to consider that, the Eddie Howe factor. You know, he's good at nurturing people and getting the best out of players. You know, it's been said a million times, and been said a million times after, look at the player that Joe Linton is today because of Eddie Howe's influence and him recognising the talent that he's got. If we could sign someone like Nicholas Jackson, we could unlock that, or he could unlock that talent for him. Obviously, it's all down to the player at the end of the day. You know, Joe Linton's got this determination. So, you know, if we sign Nicholas Jackson, has he got that in his locker? You know, Eddie Howe seems to sign players based on their personality as well, which that's another reason why this thing with Isak will be sour taste in Eddie Howe's mouth. But in Eddie we trust. We certainly do. Hopefully, as the season kicks off this week, we can try to enjoy the rest of the transfer market, and hopefully this Isak thing is sewn up, done and dusted, and can be forgot about sooner rather than later, because I'm sure we are all fed up. But I don't want to end it on a sour note. I'm looking forward to the new season. Football, when football's not on, I feel a bit like a lost sheep, don't you, really, to be honest with you? You're sort of clinging on to other sports that you never would watch and think, oh God, please, when's it back on? How many more weeks? So football's back. Can't wait for the new season to start. And looking at the positive side, I'm going to do a prediction for where I think all the teams are going to finish next season, and I'm going to do that in my next video, which will come out later on this week. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings, and if you like what I'm talking about, drop us a like on the video, and drop us a subscribe as well. Thank you very much for watching.